A very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for Issues at Hand this morning. It is still Good Morning Family, and my name is Karen Wamani. You are welcome once again. Today we are going to be looking at some issues that are affecting us, of course, negatively or positively, or even finding out exactly what is going on around us. I mean in the world of politics, in the world of current affairs, in the world of economics, of politics, like I said, but as well as inspirational and educational. Remember to follow us on our social media platforms at Church of Uganda Family TV on all social media platforms where the conversation can take place as well. Today, I have a guest in studio. His name is Mr. Lwanga Christopher. He is the head of Ideology, Research and Documentation Department in the UPC, and we're going to get straight into it. But before that, I'd like to remind you that Portea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe is the place to be in case you want comfort and luxury at its best. It is located in the heart of Entebbe town, a few minutes from Entebbe International Airport. Let's get into our discussion with our guest today, Mr. Lwanga Christopher. You're very welcome today, Sebo.
Indeed, I'm very happy to be here and to be hosted by you once again. It gives me very great confidence, and I have to send warm greetings from our party president, Honorable Jim Makena, UPC fraternity at Uganda House, UPC fraternity in the country and in the diaspora. Okay. We are very, very grateful to this great contribution you are doing in enabling us to discuss and air our views. Yes, please. So,
Honorable Jimmy Akena, how is he doing? He is set to retire soon. Why? Why so soon?
No, he's not retiring. He has never retired. He's still in the trenches and is still battling. And I think you saw how he led our team in Oyam North by-elections. He's still too young to retire. Okay. Though because of heavy work, he has grown gray hair. I'm much older than him by some good years.
Okay, so we have some issues that are trending. Maybe let's start with the fact that second-hand clothes have been banned in Uganda by President Museveni. He gave a directive and said second-hand clothes are for dead people, and we better leave them as a country to be just that there is no need for us to import second-hand clothes into the country and make people put them on, yet they were already worn by the people of the Western country. Do you agree with Mr. Museveni?
First and foremost, we would not be in this position that we are importing second-hand clothes. More so that we are the leading producers of cotton on Africa and in Commonwealth. Okay. And by 1960s, mid-1960s, our textiles were finding ready market in Britain's leading supermarkets. Okay. If we had reached that level of exporting to Europe our finished products from cotton, then what went wrong? That is what we needed to collect. And indeed, if you trace Uganda properly, you will find that the eastern and northern Uganda constituted the famous cotton belt. So how did we lose it entirely? That should be a very serious question. And if we are to go by the presidential directive, has he known how much second-hand clothing have got entrenched in the system? If anything, they are more and much more entrenched in the system than ever before. What caused all this is very important. And UPC is advising that to implement that presidential directive, it has to be done in phases, because you find that we are so much entrenched in this system, and if we just implement it by a mere stroke of the pen, it can cause a disaster to our entire economy. How can it cause a disaster to our entire economy? Look at it from all angles. Most of the leading financial institutions would like to borrow people who are doing business that brings immediate returns. And in this situation, all second-hand clothing are well funded by banks. And if you came today and you abruptly stopped it, how are those people going to service the loans which are already in the running? It would cause a big problem to the banks, to the small-scale finance organizations, and to everybody. And that is a very serious crisis. Then we have all these markets which have been pegged in each area on weekdays. If you go to check what important commodities are there, it is second-hand clothing. So how are you going to be now running those markets? And then, of course, second-hand clothing don't come in the country as charity. Okay? Charity is something like a donation or free of whatever. There is that tax component, that revenue component. How are you going to compensate for it? Okay? These are sort of challenges. Then you find that most of the arcades in Kampala are being rented by people who are dealing in second-hand clothing. How are you going to handle the issues of landlords who are going to lose income and yet they have to service some loans? I think the issue is much wider than meets the eye. However, I would prefer that if we are to do it, we try to imitate what Ghana did when there was that opportunity of AGOA, when America allowed African countries to sell their products in America straight. We also embarked on it, but our strategy was more import the fabrics from wherever you can find them, then settle down in your factories, and then you produce whatever you produce and you take to America. While Ghana took a model that started with the farms, let the farmers reactivate the planting of cotton, the ginaries to do the job. Those which are doing the weaving and what have you, the spinning, they do the job. Get the material, produce from the material, and then be ready for export. We did not take the Ghana approach. And in the end, we got stuck with our girls in Bugolobi factory. And the factory closed. But Ghana has continued to export to America. So if it's bringing this directive, I would appreciate if it starts with the farmer. And we reactivate the cotton growing. Places like Busoga, Bukedi, Teso, Lango, actually used it to produce cotton. Those sub-regions, and plenty of it. And from the cotton, by the way, if we did it from that angle, there are other benefits we can get from cotton and its products. For instance, you would automatically have soap manufactured from cotton as a byproduct. And you know how hard it is now to buy a bar of soap. It is quite very expensive. Then from cotton, you would be making very good cooking oil, which is from the plant, which is natural. Okay? That one is a very big plus, and it would save a lot of revenue, and it does a lot of things. Then from the cotton itself, you would be having it easy to feed the livestock industry with cotton seed cake. That one is also a very big plus. Then from cotton itself, these assortments like cotton wool, bandages, okay, you would be very much comfortable with them, and they take a lot of our resources when we are importing. So it is something where the government needs to be supported. But UPC's position is, let us do it in phases, however important it is. And then, of course, it is consistent with the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda.
Yes.
Bubu. Okay, it is very consistent in that direction, but you have to plan for it. And planning for it means you have now to reactivate the ginaries, you have now to reactivate the textile mills, and you have to undertake a challenge that you want to look after 46 million people at one go, which is impossible. UPC is saying, let us do it in phases. If we are saying we are going to do it for school-going children, let it start from there. Let us break it into phases. Let us break into phases. I would have loved to put on a Ugandan-made shirt. I would have loved to put on a Ugandan-made trouser, all short, all a cap. But are we ready for it? Are we ready for it? Some of you have grown minus seeing a cotton. And this is a reality. Okay? So how are we going to go for that directive to implement it? It needs serious planning, and it needs planning which is reflected in our national budget. And that national budget means real focus, real sacrifice. I have no problem with being very important cotton producers and putting on cotton products made from Uganda. But all our factories are closed. There is a time we had Ugiru, and Ugiru used it to make very good shirts like Executive, Yamato. I remember putting on those shirts, and they used it to have a regular program on the various radio station, on Radio Uganda, and with a very nice trading song. We need to go back to those roots. But we cannot go back to those roots through just words, through just directives. We need to sit on the table and we say, how do we reactivate cotton farmers in Busembatia, cotton farmers in Teso, cotton farmers in Rango? Okay, we need that. The weather is on our side. The physical conditions is on our side. But have you ever bothered to find out how many homes are having hoys for cultivation? It is a tragedy now in Uganda that most homes don't have hoys for cultivation. And when you talk about homes, you are disturbing a neighbor, borrow me a hoy, do this, do this, do this. Then most of these cotton growing areas in Uganda are flat land, where they used to use ox plows. How much of the bulls are we still having in stock, which are trained to do the cultivation? I don't want to be fancy and I talk about tractors, because the tractors are not available. Even the ox plows are not available. But now you are subjecting the whole country to be dressed from cotton produced from the country. It is a tall order. But we need such decisions. How to implement them, how to focus on them is an important idea.
Okay. So we have seen that the textile industry is still a baby industry. Can it really handle dressing 46 million Ugandans at once?
This is my biggest challenge. This is my biggest challenge. But the advantage we have, cotton does not take long to grow. Cotton does not take long to grow. Yes, it can grow, it can ripen, okay, and it can be harvested. But from the garden to the time it reaches the granary, are we set for it? You grew when you were younger when these things were working. Everywhere you go in the corner of cotton belt, you could find these Leyland tracks written on, grow more cotton. Ready to pick cotton from the farmer, ready to pick cotton from the store, take to the granary. And from the granary, you could see that chain that now they are taking cotton to Lira spinning mill. And the rail line was working in that belt, which was now taken what they have weaved in, spinned in Lira spinning mill to ATM in Imbale, African Textile Mills in Imbale, all to Naiti Rujinja in Jinja, all to Muruko, all to Ugiru. That entire chain, that entire infrastructure was still in existence. But today, as we are talking, that entire infrastructure is not in existence. The giant or biggest spinning mill in Lira, which I advise you should visit, is in operation. It is not working. And that was a gift from Russia. Okay, it is not working, but it was ultra-modern, one of the biggest in East and Central Africa. So the question you have asked is indeed very, very important. Can we meet the demands of the 46? My answer would be, it is a tall order. We should just attempt to struggle and to see what we can manage to do. Otherwise, we are biting too much at the same time.
Okay. So do you think that instead of focusing on textile industry, which is going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, should we focus more on other industries that will bring income to support textile, for example, agriculture and infrastructure, basically, other programs that can bring in money to support textile?
Actually, if you looked very closely, the textile industry, it has backward and forward linkages. And this stems from saying, let us grow our cotton, which will feed the textile industries. And when you are talking about let us grow our own cotton, you are not talking about cotton you are going to plant in Kampala. You are not talking about cotton you are going to plant in Jinja or in Mbale. You are talking about cotton you are going to plant, to grow in one of our rural areas. And when you put money in rural areas, you are enhancing rural development. And when you are enhancing rural development, you are ensuring that those people who live in the urban areas, the rural areas are looking after them. Okay? Let them do the rest of the service sector work while the rural areas is very productive. And once the rural areas become very productive, then you have had a chance to develop the country qualitatively and quantitatively. Now we have a mismatch. You have overinvested in urban areas at the expense of rural areas. And when you do that, you induce rural-urban migration. And when you induce rural-urban migration, trust me, you cannot look after several people who have flooded the urban centers. You will develop a slum culture, you will develop a compound culture, your resources will be very thin on the ground, and you will not manage to look after that increase the population in urban centers, in townships, in municipalities, which is the case now. But when you say, let us revive textile industries. Textile industries goes with cotton production. Cotton production provide the seeds, provide the extension workers, have these sort of tractors. And I liked these places like Teso, Lango, Acholi. They have their traditional system by which they do farming. A certain family will assemble several people from the village, about 20. You just provide traditional beer and you provide a meal. They will cultivate a whole area far bigger than 2 playing fields of football. Then after they have done that, you plant, then also you will be expected to follow them to finish that. That is how people in northern Uganda, eastern Uganda, some parts of eastern Uganda have huge gardens. So with our local technology, local traditional systems, we can still make it before they bring in the tractors or before we go for mechanization.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Maybe let's move to the next topic. Now, when Honorable Matia Kasaija was reading the national budget, we noticed that he said the economy is set to grow at a 5.5% increment this financial year. And the budget was 52.7 trillion shillings, but some of that money was set to be borrowed from some areas. One of these areas, or one of these one of these where the help would come from was the World Bank, which cut its donation due to the fact that the bill of anti-homosexuality was passed and it didn't go well with them. And do you think this is set to affect our country negatively in any way and take us back, or do you think we shall still achieve our 5.5% increase this financial year?
This is a very big challenge, my dear. Some of us, we are talking from the experience that we have ever been in government from 1962 to 71 and from 1980 to 85.
Okay.
When you hear a statement of that nature, that there is a ban or there is suspension in helping you, you have to ask your questions, very serious questions. Is it starting from there and stopping from there, or others may imitate?
Okay.
So you have to work very hard to ensure that others don't imitate. But these people work as sisters. World Bank has a direct sister who is IMF, International Monetary Fund. And the World Bank has shareholders who also have other partnerships in other associations. So you have to really figure it out, that let this fire which is trying to disturb us stop there, and it should not go beyond. Okay? Of course, it has to disorganize your entire aspects of planning. And crucially, since our independence, we have worked closely with the World Bank. Okay? But what is very important, in our times, we are working with the World Bank on our terms. And even the present government, when it came from the bush and he formed the government in 1986, it worked with those institutions on our terms. Remember, we had even introduced an aspect of barter trade, that let us get whatever products we can produce at a comparative advantage, look for whoever wants them, and we exchange with whatever we need. I think we are tempted to take beans, we are tempted to take maize to Cuba, and Cuba was supposed to give us, I think, generators and what have you, transformers, and I think their human resource, especially the medics. But our challenge was we had not concentrated on standardizing our products to put in the barter trade. And of course, also barter trade is very cumbersome. It is as if you are going back to the old ages where we had moved from. Okay. Then later on, after 2 or 3 years, our government made a U-turn and embarked fully on World Bank and the IMF reforms. This was imposed on a number of African countries, and they set benchmarks, okay, that if you sell all the civil servant houses, you sell your main electricity company, you sell your banks, we shall be reducing these credits and giving you these loans. Now for us, we went into all that arrangement, and we did not do constant review. And it happened also when our level of trade unionism is very, very weak. And when also there was a political gap of political parties. UPC did not have an official mouth. DP did not have an official mouth. FDC had not yet been born. People Progressive Party had not yet been born. UPM had gone in the limbo. CP was also very much limping. Okay, so there was no voice of the people to deliberate that. Though you would say there was a parliament and there was one party participatory democracy in it, but it goes beyond that. So a lot of decisions were made. We privatized, we over-liberalized our economy. Well, our neighbors like Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, Malawi, when they started walking our journey, they realized that this journey is very difficult to walk. And if you are to complete it, you may end up disarming yourself. Because African countries, whether you like it or you don't like it, they need to pursue a mixed economy. By mixed economy, we are saying let private sector thrive in areas, okay, which they can handle, and let the government thrive in areas where it should be a vanguard of development. Because there are some important areas which you cannot leave in private hands. For instance, I can give an example of the transport sector. It is so heavy if you are to develop it to the required standards. But which private sector in your country can come up to run a rail transport? Okay, it becomes very, very difficult for such strategic, heavy consuming industries to have an individual or group of individuals who will run. Even when you import them from other countries, again you find that when you talk about issues of independence and sovereignty, for your transport sector, 80% to be in foreign hands, it doesn't sound very well. Yes. So again, it comes to banking. You might say, okay, let you bring foreign players, let you bring private sectors to run your banking sector. When you do that and you bring them to run the banking sector, are you going to dictate on what interest rate do they give their loans? You will not. They will hike to 15, they will hike to 18%, they will hike to 20%. Yet for you, you want your interest rates for strategic activities to be around 3 or 4 or 5%. Where now I'm talking or I'm leading you, World Bank loans are some of those loans which you take a longer period to pay. They may even give you a grace period that don't pay now, you'll start paying after 20 or 30 or 40 years. And then the interest of World Bank also that is not so prohibitive. It is in the range of 4, 5 or even below. So to lose such a partner you have been working for since 1962, it doesn't make sense. So we implore our government, even at this hour, to engage heavily World Bank, and they discuss and they do everything in a manner that they have mutual respect for each other. They can choose, they can pick, they can reject. Yes, I'm talking like this. When I was a student at Makerere University, Comrade David, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, the party and its government suspended World Bank and the IMF. They said, your conditions we cannot tolerate anymore. Can you pack up your bags and go? And then World Bank and the IMF left. Being students at Makerere University, we saluted Dr. Kaunda, we saluted Zambia, we were so happy in our corridors of halls of residence and in the lecture rooms. And the others, we started even putting on Kaunda suits, and we felt that Kaunda has delivered. Then later on, Kaunda started negotiating with the World Bank, and he said, okay, I can bring you back on my terms. And which exactly he did. He told the World Bank, you are coming, I'm not going to sell houses of civil servants. It will cause a big problem. I know my workers are poor, let them have the houses. Okay? Why should the government not house its workers? Okay? He put those serious questions. Then he said, my civil servants, my citizens are really poor. I cannot pull away the subsidies on the miru as you are suggesting. But what we can do, every government worker, I'm going to give him or her 4 coupons. You just have the coupons, you take them to a supermarket, a government supermarket. But Zambia used to have government supermarkets, like a National Home Stores, Zambia, ZNBC, Mwaiseni. There were so many across the country. And you take there the coupons, you are given 4 bags of miru, of maize flour, 25 kg or 50 kg, 2 of them. And you go and you feed your family. When you are at the school, the headmaster will bring those coupons. And the citizen is sign. That is how he managed it. Then also he concentrated on domestic production. a chain of soft drinks from outside like soda, Fanta disappeared from the market stands. And we started having a drink like a Talino, a local drink, which we used to take. Then also encouraged this purification of opaque beer. The awachibuku was nicely made, delivered in compounds and what have you. Such that you don't, much as is sent to World Bank, I put in some standby measures. Now, and also Kawunda was such a stature that he had been an international leader. When he goes for bilateral terms, whether World Bank is squeezing him here, they have a strained relationship. These Scandinavian countries poured in resources. Yes, our government should re-engage World Bank, but at the same time it should explore other ways. Okay? It would be very difficult for me to say that we would not feel the pinch. We shall feel the pinch. I remember still Zambia gives a nice case study. Their former leader, now the late Frederick Chiluba, wanted to get a third term and to say no, from second term I'm adding. So the people, citizens told him, please, the constitution is saying 2 terms. Then World Bank and other international partners came in and tightened and stopped giving aid. But Chiluba was very arrogant. He said, no, I can continue pushing. After all, I can meet the recurrent expenditures. Now, what happened? Much as he met the recurrent expenditures, the development budget for roads, for hospitals, for markets got grounded. And in the process of getting grounded, Chiluba had to say, no, I'm rescinding the decision. I'm not going for third term. Please let us organize elections. I bid farewell. And then international organizations came in to support Zambia. But Zambia is very unique. It has a very huge industrial sector, unlike Uganda. Okay? So for Uganda, as we are in this crisis, the government should run very fast to do a lot of food production. You cannot have this issue when you are importing some rice, when you are importing some wheat, and World Bank is tightening on you. It means you have to subdivide your scarce resources, and which is not easy. And remember, it is coming at a time when we are coming from COVID, and we have never recovered fully from COVID and its effects. Remember, caused led to closure of several businesses, which have never come back. Okay, and when we are trying to get used to COVID and its challenges, then the Ukraine-Russian war started. The Ukraine-Russian war, when it started, I think the main area it has hit is the area which uses flour. We used over the weekend, my daughter from London was supposed to visit, and they have a particular interest of having chapati. So I struggled to look for chapati, which I can give people decently. I even came as far as Uganda House. I went as far as Balintuma until I was told, the best chapatis now, you can get them from Lwanga. And I went and I placed a special order. Okay, so you can see the entire hassle. But before the Ukrainian war, Russian war, any spot you would drop in, you would find very good chapatis. You would find very good beans. But this was not the case. So when you are having those pressures within the economy, what you don't need to hear that there is a freeze on the loans you are supposed to get. There is a ban on the loans you are supposed to get. That is not the language we need at this material time. Okay. However, we pray very hard that our government will manage to put the position before World Bank, and World Bank has a consideration. Okay. That would be very, very helpful. Otherwise, I cannot just stamp that we can manage to shoulder on. And you remember, not a long time ago, we were supposed to have women council elections. And the explanation they gave why they were not held, it is because we lacked resources.
Yeah.
Then from there, time came for special interest, for LC1 elections and LC2 elections.
Yes.
The same explanation was given that we don't have resources. Will let us even extend the expired tenure of the LC committees as we are scouting for the resources in the next 3 months. And that was being said before the World Bank came in with that unfortunate news. So our lack of resources, our lack of facilities to do our program, it is glaring, it is there, and it is already affecting our democracy. Okay, so it is my prayer that let us play very hard, and at the same time, the government also should step up the bilateral talks with those various countries which can help. Then I was also happy to learn that the discussion, the debate of Islamic banking is now gaining more momentum from the parliament, and the parliament has approved. There is Islamic banking from the Arab world mainly, which does not go for interest rates. If they have given you 10 shillings, you have to return 10 shillings. Okay? So they are discussing it, and the government should increase its speed, and if possible, even get some of our people who are very influential in Islamic faith and be part of the people to get us that aid, to talk to their brothers in faith that indeed we are having a serious challenge. I know the Arab world has a special position for Uganda. And it is not only Uganda, even Rome, even Canterbury, because of this historical perspective of introduction of religion in Uganda. There is a way Namugongo and whatever we underwent in that phase is very unique in the entire world. And it makes Uganda to have sympathy, to have friendship, which cuts across. And it is that we should exploit.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to take a very short break, and when we return, we look more at the World Bank situation and what exactly we're going to do, but also the multi-party system. Is it working out for Uganda? Stay with us. It's Issues at Hand, and we are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Are here discussing some of the current affairs and the issues affecting our country, Uganda, economically, especially money-wise, because we need to, the economic aspect is very important because we need to move forward as a country. And I'm here with the head of Ideology Research and Documentation Department of UPC. His name is Lwanga Christopher, and he's taking us through this session. Of course, we're powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe in the heart of Entebbe, located just next to the airport, to the international airport of Uganda in Entebbe. Yes, so my question, because of time, let's get to another question about the multi-party systems in Uganda. Uganda has some, a number of parties, and the multi-party system, is it effective in Uganda? And has it done its part in improving the welfare and well-being of the country?
Thanks very much. Our heritage of independence was benchmarked by multi-party politics. Every Ugandan participated in the decolonization and independence struggle through the various political parties of his or her choice. 9th October 1962 united us, and we followed a model of Westminster. That model was based on parliamentary democracy, which was enshrined in the constitution, that the party with the highest number of MPs in parliament forms a government. It was at liberty whether to form a coalition government with everyone or with a few partners. And it happened that UPC managed to form a coalition government with the Kabaka Yeka King's Alone Party and the DP, Democratic Party, was in the opposition. That was how independence was delivered. And if independence was delivered like that, who am I to destroy that heritage? If that heritage will destroy it, I must be an Amini type. Amini took snatched the power, closed the parliament, banned the political parties, and was governing the country as a dictator. And because of that, what he did, he went even for politicians and started killing them. Then he made a very serious mistake where he hoped that his gunmen, his soldiers, would run and direct the affairs of Uganda. Their performance was very, very unfortunate. But they had the guns, they had the money, they had entrenched themselves. It required the politicians from various walks of life to gather, to rally around in Tanzania and the other places to uproot Idi Amin. And here I have to take special gratitude, to pay special gratitude to Tanzania and Zambia, who immediately came to our rescue. Also Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, and the rest also came in. Now, as Amin was uprooted and our new government was formed in Moshi, Tanzania, they were not very clear whether we go back to multipartism or we remain in that sort of arrangement. But good enough, the parties which had participated in the independence organized themselves. DP and UPC were talking to each other on a very regular basis, changing tactics, sharing strategies, and what have you. Until Rule was removed, Binaisa was removed, military commission took over. And on 27th May 1980, when Dr. Promito Obote came from exile, parties returned with his arrival in Bushenyi. And from that time, it started moving around the country. People who had the shirts they had hidden for the past 9 years, t-shirts, the songs, all came in the picture. This reactivated the DP also to do the same. And the KY also changed it to CP. Then others also formed the UPM, including the current leader. And we started moving on the path of multipartism. Now, as we moved on the path of multipartism, the fruits were seen. This is how we managed to reconstruct and rehabilitate the economy within the first 5 years. Then when the military Okero came in, things became worse. When again the current leadership came in 86, they froze the political parties and could only operate at the headquarters. So there was that struggle to restore political parties, which was done in 2006. Having gone through that period of 20 years minus political parties, when they were returned, they were not very much perfect. But we are working towards perfection. So when we are working towards perfection, and you ask if multipartism can deliver, I'm very confident that multipartism can deliver. There was no bigger giant like the colonial master whom we fought. These are the remaining issues in our political landscape. It is childish play. It was very difficult to tackle the British. It was very difficult to force them to give us independence. And some of us who identify ourselves with the independence struggle, we shall never retire. We shall never retire. It is our inspiration. It is our salvation. Okay? When we look back at 9th October 1962, we said no, political parties should continue. And political parties should deliver. Because in governance, you don't have a substitute to political party. You may try to bring in NGOs, what have you. They just play a supplementary role. But anything to do with the governance and democracy of the country, the watchdogs are political parties. And there is no political party which wants to be kicked out of power on the record of poor service delivery, on the record of corruption. So every political party which is in power, or which is aspiring to take power, it is indeed trying to perfect itself. It is like in these courtships we used to do when we are in schools or colleges. You could even go to the extent of borrowing a shirt, borrowing a belt, such that you can impress, you can look credible, okay? And you maybe also your pattern has done the same. So this is the essence of a political party. There is no political party which wants to be called or at fault. Every time we are fine-tuning. Every time we are fine-tuning. Unfortunately, you people, you are in the media. We cannot recruit you. I would have loved to recruit you and show you how we fine-tune our things. Okay? So, the question of multi-party system not delivering in Uganda, yes, we have challenges, but we are preparing ourselves. And the more we go into elections, the more we perfect, we try to put up structures, the more we hold our delegates conference, so much the better.
Okay.
But each political party, where we confuse things, must have a stronghold. Where it jumps from, where it leaps from. Okay, you will find let me say Noop, its stronghold is in Uganda, and it is leaping from Uganda. DP also, it is mainly in Uganda, it is leaping from Uganda. Us in UPC, our stronghold remains in the north, and that is where we are sending our tentacles. Okay. So that arrangement is not a crime. Of course, the party which is in power has taken advantage of being in power for so long when we had been switched off, and it sent its tentacles far and wide. But this is a competition. You never know. The wind can blow in our favor like the way it blew in our favor in Oyamu North by-elections. And we triumphed. Now we can extend on that.
Okay.
We can extend on that.
Okay.
But the beauty of democracy, it is competing ideas. The beauty of multipartism, it is how you market yourself. Okay. The ideas, the principles, the philosophies, the ideologies. You cannot take away that.
Okay.
You cannot. Okay.
All right. I think we should wrap up from there because of time. But there will be a next time with Mr. Lwanga.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward for that next time. Wherever our party is invited or I'm invited, we are available and we shall never disappoint. We are servants of Uganda, we are servants of the people, and that's why even you see our name associated with the people.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We thank you for being a very good audience today of For Issues at Hand. You can continue the conversation on our social media platforms at Church of Uganda Family TV, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, as well as on YouTube, where we post these subsequent videos. My name is Karen Omani. Thank you so much for being a part of Issues at Hand once again. We are powered by Protea Hotel, by Marriott